This morning, the photograph that I have behind me that I took on a recent trip with Jackie, my wife, is of Canyon de Chelly in northeastern portion of Arizona. For hundreds of millions of years, heat and cold weather conditions have crafted the amazing terrain that you see before you here in Canyon de Chelly, with uh, ice and cold and snow landing on here and melting as the sun would warm it up and then refreezing again, and in that heating refreezing process breaking off pieces of the stone, sending it cascading to the floor of the canyon below you. And through that process, over hundreds of millions of years, you see the absolutely phenomenal creations that nature has crafted for our viewing pleasure, and perhaps at the same time also to allow us to consider energy shifts on a much broader perspective than what I do as I come before you each week to consider the celestial surround that is currently in play. Speaking of that celestial surround in play, this week is no minor set of circumstances to ponder upon. Three planets are going to shift signs. Mercury is going to, well, on Monday, going to be no longer doing that apparent retrograde dance anymore, and will be on forward trajectory compared to our earthly orbit around the sun. And the moon catches up with the sun in the next new moon. So, just in those few words, there's a lot of celestial energy shifts that are taking place this week. Whenever a planet shifts from one energy arena, a sign of the zodiac, into the next, there's what's the best way to put this? There's a shift in the energy that is taking place, that if you consider consecutive signs of the zodiac, one is very dynamic. The next one that follows it is takes the energy quotient that has been in play and says either it's going to go, whoa, time to chill out, it's time to take a break from all that energized, thing to try and accomplish something that was in the previous sign, or vice versa. You could be in a chill moment going through a sign where the reflective quality of that energy that you represent, and is where you feel your comfort zone tickled one way or another, is more relaxed and stuff. And then boom, the next thing you know, the planet shifts out of that sign and goes into the next sign where it's like, damn the lifeboat's full speed ahead. I'm feeling like the energy uptick has just taken place and I've got to do things. And that's kind of some of the energy that this week is bringing for this consideration. Right after that, Monday, Mercury is basically going to start going forward again. And so Mercury is how we think, how we put our thoughts together into a format that we can effectively live with and be able to exchange communication with others, or maybe just within our own particular matrix of what it is that we believe life is about. After all, how important could that be? essay question. You get to answer that one. Let's go look at the chart. See what the heck is going on now. Here's Monday. There's our Mercury down here in the bottom. As you can kind of see that nice white S there beside it. That means it's basically stationary. It's not going anywhere, but it's a white S, which means that it's at least not going in reverse anymore. We don't have to rethink, reprogram our process of putting energy together in some sort of a format. No. However, you have to ask yourself, have I been effectively utilizing this most recent Mercury retrograde cycle to investigate something, to consider, just exactly what is it that is trying to get my attention? Is it, have I been paying effective enough attention to the details of the life process that I am about? And now that Mercury is going forward again, even though it's not going anywhere fast on Monday, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel safe? Do I feel effective enough to be able to share the insights that transpired during this retrograde cycle? Have I delved deeply enough into matters of effectively talking with myself and talking with others that what's going to come out of my mouth at this point is going to make sense? To me, of course, right off the bat, that is the key. But in that, am I willing to listen to others? This is part of the communication process. It's not just, blah, 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 yakety, yakety, yakety. I have that capacity, but I have a conscious concern that what is transpiring between anybody that I come in contact with, that we are on at least a parallel trajectory in what it is that we're going to share with one another, so that we each might grow into being something that we weren't before we came together. Essential Mercury at work. And Mercury's in Taurus, so this is one of those, remember I gave you those two versions of the signs. One has a lot more energy than the other, or let's say a lot more active energy than the other. The other one is a little bit more relaxed. Well, Taurus is one of those that's just a little bit more relaxed than the sign previous to it, which is Aries. And the experience that we are in, as far as our thoughts, as far as what we think we have as our organized level of conversation, might not be driving as hard as it would have been in the Aries thing. And I'm bringing this up very particularly because one of the planets that switches signs this week is Jupiter. As you can kind of see down here, Jupiter at 29 degrees 44 minutes of Aries. If we jump ahead 2 days, actually even in one day, this is Tuesday, between Tuesday and Wednesday, Jupiter is actually going to shift from that dynamic energy of Aries, where action is the key, the impulse, the drive, the wish to accomplish and conquer things, as well as, ruled by Mars, which Mars is one of those planets that's going to shift signs this week, also can be utilized in an effective enough way that we are going to be asked quite particularly, in an Aries style where Jupiter growth expansion, trying to be big at everything that we do, have we effectively been beings that are there not just to conquer everything, but to be a protector for others? This is another Mars kind of energy that doesn't often get played up that much. But Mars, utilizing that Aryan archetype, can be doing the dynamic, somewhat often overtly challenging things that it does in order to protect a particular energy frame from harm. Yeah. Did you ever think of that? Mars isn't just the conquering warrior, but what's the warrior protecting? You have to ask, what is the inspiration that is driving that warrior idea? Anyway, Wednesday comes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Jupiter, that, what shall we say, the insight of the larger picture that is, it's always there, but may not necessarily be in focus. It's just shifted out of that, dynamic, impulsive, Aryan, archetypal mix into Taurus, where it's just saying, oh boy, do I need a break. And in Taurus, that that comfortable zone. There's a good Taurian term, comfort. I like my desserts just so. There's another Taurian kind of thing. The idea of, really being pampered. There's a deliciousness to that Taurian sense of, I want to, in some fashion, own this experience of richness that a really delightful dessert makes my tongue dance with. Mind you, I live with a creative wife who makes the most amazing desserts, and I have to test them, of course. So that Taurian side in me, we all have all 12 of these signs within us, does the happy dance on more than a regular basis at the creations that arrive in the icebox, in the plates in front of me, in the cookies that I get to sample. Welcome to Taurus. What's the value of something? That's another Taurus term. And Jupiter always, always, always says, I don't want to try and make this experience small. Oh, no, no, not. For I am Jupiter. I rule Sagittarius. I want to know, what is the big picture? How can I be a part of that big picture? And what am I going to glean once I get there into that larger zone that I don't know currently? So Jupiter coming into Taurus is saying, I'm relaxing out of the intensity of the Aryan cycle that I've just been through. I'm now in this zone where, I want to come up with a value from, the Jupiter Sagittarian perspective of what is the larger reason for why I would do anything, why I would own anything. Does it have value more than just like something that, could be very fleeting? Jupiter is not that fleeting of a kind of energy. That's more like a Mars thing. That drive, that impulse to, be and do to the point where it's like, I've done that now and I need to do something else. Jupiter's like, how can I grow this process that I'm involved in an effective enough way that there will be more? Always, there will be more. And you put that into the consideration of, what is worth participating in? What is worth owning? This is Jupiter landing in Taurus, and this will be with us for a year in that Taurian archetype, asking us, have I made wise decisions and choices as to how much energy am I going to apply into this field of ownership? Do the things that I actually have actually carry with them a continuity of substance that has longevity? You have to answer that question. I can't answer it for you. One thing that I would have you make note of is that as Jupiter went into Taurus, it moved into square with Pluto up here in retrograde at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And squares are challenging energies. And so from that Plutonic perspective, how shall we put this? Well, let's just look at the archetype of Pluto, just for an instance. Pluto's version, we'll call it a version, that is at work always, is in trying to see if something has the mettle to survive. Is there enough energetic quality to something that if I were to put it under the focused microscope, the intense focusing of the microscope of, are you worth applying energy to? And what Pluto is saying is like, do you have enough strength to survive the death rebirth cycle? So if we apply that same kind of question to the things that we think are of value to us, Taurus, and Jupiter wanting to make sure that those things are going to have longevity in their value, Pluto, up there in that square to it from Aquarius, is going to say, is probably going to ask you, if this thing or these things that you own do carry value from the Aquarian perspective, which is where Pluto is right now, are they significant to more than just yourself? Are others able to benefit from the fact of your ownership of something? Ooh, now there's a question. Have I sequestered something away from the experience that others might even know I have it? Or might I be using it to enhance the process of what transpires when I get together with others? Is that fine, exquisite tea set tucked away in my, china cabinet of much value if I am not, sharing the process of creating the tea, to engage in conversation with others about matters that are of concern? Yes, and Mercury, remember, in Taurus as well. And the moon is going to catch up with it, you know, on the very same day that it has. Oh, by the way, yes, the moon moving along in its own rapid fashion went over Jupiter in the process of shifting from Aries into Taurus. The moon says, how do I feel about this? How open is my heart to feelings? Okay, that's Wednesday. You know, and this, I was going to bring up this nice little orange uh, triangle here, equilateral. Yeah, it's not even really an equilateral triangle. Opposition that's forming here between Mars and Pluto. Not a light consideration. Mars and Pluto, the true rulers of Scorpio, are there are always factors that come into play when those two bodies are speaking one with another that we will get to in this week's considerations. So, if we go ahead a couple more days, you can kind of see that, well, here we go. Friday. New moon. Mars, here you can kind of see, is less than a degree away from the sun. So within the hour, essentially here on Friday at 8 in the morning here on the Pacific time, we're going to have a new moon. It's going to be there at 28 degrees of Taurus. I should look up the Sabian symbol for that particular degree of Taurus and see what does it have to say. Anything creative? Two cobblers working at a table. The twofold character of man's mature understanding. And the key word is perspective. Imagine, if you will, here we're at last couple degrees of Taurus, you know, so there's if you can picture it, there's a kind of a transitional energy that's in the matrix at this point. You're coming to the close of the Taurian cycle, where you've had the opportunity to tune into in an effective enough way as to what is it that ownership means to me? What is it that the things that I own carry as far as value? And you're preparing for the next step, which is going to take place this week as well. And that is not only just the moon, but the sun as well is going to leave Taurus and enter one of the most curious signs of the zodiac, Gemini. Sun going into Gemini. And let's see. On the very same day that this is going to transpire, look here. Now we have the sun at 29 degrees 21 Taurus, just one day away from moving into Gemini. This is Saturday, by the way. Actually, it'd probably be later that same day. And here's Mars, 29:59, only 1 minute away from. So on this very same day, Saturday, Mars is going to shift into Cancer. The sun is going to shift into Gemini. And so, actually, Mars is going to shift into Leo, out of Cancer. So, energy shift. Oh, yeah, there are definitely an energy shift factor that is in play. The sun. I just went to a workshop yesterday with Mark Jones on solar power, dealing with that sun dance that we all participate in one fashion or another from time to time in our life, where we are invited to pay specific attention as to how tuned in are we to our solar radiant selves. We all have the sun somewhere in our makeup, and there's a potency to allowing whatever sign that sun happens to be in to radiate through and with the archetype of the particular sign that initiated this current incarnational process that our soul is going through and signed up for. As the sun, basically the sun doesn't go anywhere. As we go around the sun in our Earth orbits, we are invited to, if we're paying attention, tune into that solar radiance in the particular sign it is, currently in from our Earth perspective, and say, how does my solar energy, if I'm a Libra, a Sagittarius, or a Pisces, fit within the context of where our Earth and Sun dance currently is transpiring. If I'm a Libra, my connection to others, Libra, Sun moving from Taurus into Gemini, is going to be amped up with a curiosity. I need to know. I need to meet more people. I have this, all of a sudden, this inspiration of curiosity that says I need more people in my relationship container. Sagittarius, opposite from Gemini. Sagittarius Sun says, what is it now? How is my stimulation, how is my curiosity stimulated right now to see a larger picture? Maybe to learn some of the nitty-gritty details of why this particular larger picture is coming to me, and where might that go? I could go through all the signs and do this, but I'll just give you two, just to whet your appetite, so that you might ask yourself questions that perhaps you hadn't asked before. Is my sun natally in Leo, now traversing the Gemini archetype as the sun is going to do this week? How stimulated might I be to find new words to put out there on the stage of life, to see what kind of reaction my fellow human beings are going to present to me as an expansion of what I can express. That's enough of the other signs. Just be aware that as the sun shifts into Gemini here during that Saturday, Sunday matrix of time, if you're paying attention, will feel that curiosity instinct. Remember Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, just turned around and started moving direct. So the curiosities is not something that you can just say, well, I might like to look a little bit deeper into something. Oh, no, not. It's like, I need to do this. There's a reason that curiosity was stimulated. The sun right now, that vitality of energy is beckoning me. in no uncertain terms to take chances. And I throw that take chances in there. The reason, sometimes I don't even know why I say the things that I say, but Mars going into Leo, taking chances. You've got that, you know, impulsive Mars drive kind of energy going into Leo, the sign of taking chances, gambling, stirring the pot just a little bit more vigorously to see, what's going to work out if I do this or if I do that. Well, we'll just bump it ahead one more day so we can see all these planets here. We have Jupiter, which was at 0 degrees in Taurus, an exact T square at the midpoint between Mars and Pluto, is kind of acts as a fulcrum to that Mars Pluto energy that's at work. And we have, this is, at the 0 degrees of real early degrees of the fixed signs of the zodiac. And the fixed signs of the zodiac basically being Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, often get the rap of, once something, I'm an Aquarius, by the way, once something has gelled into a process that works, it's likely that those of us in the fixed signs are going to stick with it because it works. And why mess with something that is, that obviously functions well for us? Well, this, I'm trying to figure out the best way to spell it. We're going to look at the Pluto-Mars opposition that's going across this Leo-Aquarius 0 degrees axis. The very beginning of these two fixed signs, Leo and Aquarius, Mars, being energized and stimulated to actually take chances, to fire up that energy drive, so to speak, in getting out there. And these are the two rulers of Scorpio. And Scorpio, by the way, if we look at this, we also have if I were to include the nodes of the moon, which are at basically 3 degrees of Scorpio and Taurus, we'd have a grand cross. Well, the nodes of the moon they're like a destiny line in the astrological makeups, with the north node being opportunity to, strike out and do something creative and new, and the south node being like a bookmark that said, this is something that I know because I've been utilizing that energy for a long time. A long time can mean multiple incarnations, by the way. And I don't have to apply a lot of energy to it, but at the same time, I don't want to fall back on it as a scapegoat for something that, comes really easy for me. The North Node is like, it doesn't come easy for you. It's a challenge, but if there's a willingness to accept the challenge, then you grow from it. Thus, the destiny line. Now, the Pluto-Mars opposition is, asking all of us in a, grand cross square with those nodal axes, are we tuned in enough to to our own particular destinies, or perhaps more particularly to the destiny line of humanity, in an effective enough way that we can actually perceive and see what it is that is of vital significance for us as soul beings to accomplish while we're doing this earth walk. Not just at a selfish level, Pluto says. No, this is the life, death, rebirth cycle that I'm bringing into the equation. And as a Plutonic being, I am digging deep under the surface of things going on to expose and bring up factors that were hidden from you and asking you, do you know this? Can you see what's going on? And if so, are you willing to allow it to pass away as having less relevance to the trajectory forward that we should be on? Mars in opposition, the other ruler of Scorpio, is saying, I give you the energy and the permission now that I am in Leo to take chances in this process. Don't get stuck in the mud. Don't get infused into a quagmire of the past that is holding you back from actually accomplishing and growing into a new level of soul awareness. So there's energies at work this week, not to be taken lightly. This is important stuff. This week, a lot of energy changes. Oh, enough playing around with the chart. When I go back to sitting, standing, being, in the quiet space or spaces of Canyon de Chelly down in Arizona, just within the last week, maybe a couple weeks, there's a form of relaxation as how quiet the dynamic energy of Canyon de Chelly infuses and infiltrates every pore of my being. The hundreds of millions of years of this canyon unfolding its essence and continuing to this very day allows me to do two things. One, tune into a much longer experience. And two, to search for a significance that I, coming here in this current moment, can apply to enhancing the fact that I know this longevity as a soul being, as a participant through many incarnations, both forward and backward, as part of the unfolding of the current story that humanity has been invited to participate with. So pay attention this week. You're going to possibly feel pulled in a lot of different directions as the energy shifts appear on the horizon and ask you, are you paying attention? Where do I fit into this new energy unfold? And I use that very appropriately. It is new. Are you willing to see it as new and not a repetition of something that you may desire? That's all I have for you for this week. Be safe out there. There are energetic factors that are attempting to manipulate us into all kinds of things. But these are only at the minute, minuscule day-to-day kind of events that we participate in. Your soul has a much longer perspective. Tune in there. See what you, as a soul being, require now to go forward. Ciao for now.